Well, hello there. Welcome to the Obi-Thorn Alliance. I'm Jacob.
And I'm Luke, and we're the YouTube channel that offers non-biased opinions from that of two different perspectives. We've got that of someone on the autism spectrum and someone who is not. And if you like our content, don't forget to like and subscribe. We bring out new content every single week. So what are we doing in today's video, Jacob?
Very pumped for today's video. We are reviewing probably the best limited series of the year so far. A show on Apple TV Plus, Blackbird.
Cool. So if you want to find out more and what score we gave it, stick around. So let's summarize Blackbird. So we already did the mid-season review, so now we've finally seen the whole thing. Blackbird was a show you recommended to me.
Yes.
It stars Taron Egerton as Jimmy Keane. James Keane, also Jimmy is his nickname.
Yeah.
And then we've got Paul Walter House playing Larry Hall. This show follows a really unique true story. As to how much of it is true, we don't know, but we assume quite a lot. So James, or Jimmy Keane, has been put in jail for selling drugs and narcotics. He is then given the opportunity of a lifetime to get his sentence reduced from 10 years down to being allowed out within... Well, he's been in jail for 7 months at this time, so he could get out as soon as 8 months. But all he has to do is swap prisons and try and get a confession out of Larry Hall, who is a serial confessionist and believed to be a serial rapist and killer of young girls. So the show follows him becoming friends with this serial killer and finding out what makes him tick and what made him do what he does and what crimes he had and hadn't committed. And through that, he can get himself out of prison by doing it. And it follows it over a 6-part series. What other interesting things happen in this show?
We get to see how a man is so desperate that he's willing to do these things to try and get out and try and befriend someone that's so demented and so messed up because of what happened to him and his twin brother. And the acting performance is quite amazing. And this is a show on Apple TV, and I think if this was on Netflix or something more well known, it would get a lot more hype and people would be talking about it more.
Oh, for sure. Apple TV is one of those streaming services that a lot of people have because, if you're an Apple user, there's a good chance you've probably got a subscription and you don't even know about it. But people don't seem to utilize it, whether because it's not friendly with all TVs or all streaming devices. So it's not something that everyone's seen. Plus, Apple kind of have a bad track record with shows and movies so far. But this one's definitely the exception. The star power in it, the acting for sure. I think Paul Walter House, for me, his portrayal of Larry Hall, that's top-notch acting. The way he played this serial killer was amazing. From my previous scenes of him where he played Stingray in Cobra Kai, this is very different for him. And, this is amazing. It goes to show his wide range of performances he can put together. So this show, is a must-watch in my opinion. I really, really liked it. And, yeah, as you said, it goes to show what someone would do to get freedom. And then also goes to show the mind of a serial killer and, what they think is logical and him believing what he was doing was right. And, at times even claiming he did do it and he didn't do it.
It was all dreams.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things you can't really stop watching it once you start. It's really, really, really enjoyable. Let's move into giving it a rating. So I'll get Jacob to go first. So what did you give it, Jacob?
Out of our rating system of 100%, I gave it an 88%. This is high caliber TV that you need to watch. The acting performance, everything about it is high caliber. The best performance of these actors' lives. Every episode, you want to know more. Did Larry do these crimes? What possessed Larry to do these things? Everything about the story, the production, everything about it is amazing. And even though it's a limited series, I think it's worth looking up more facts about it because it's based on a true story, and that's what gives it more weight to it. And the main factor that we count in is it worth your time? And yes, it is. I think it's highly worth your time. Out of anything to watch at the moment, I think it's the best watch to watch on Apple TV and streaming services at the moment, and you'll be satisfied with the conclusion, and hope you enjoy it. And yeah.
So I totally agree with Jacob. I coincidentally gave it the same score of 88. We had a few differences in different categories. So for those that think we give it the same score on purpose, we don't. It's just coincidental. So you'll see that in the comment section, what we gave it on each category. I really thought, the acting was top notch, the casting was top notch. The fact that it was a true story, that limits what it could do and where it could go. But, if it wasn't a true story, you wouldn't believe it. And you'd say, wow, how did they come up with such an absurd idea? And, it's true and it happened. And it leaves you wanting more and wanting to find out more. The only things for me that let the show down a bit was, I think the last little bit of the story was a bit compacted. We really built this story and wanting to know how it was going to end. And as it came towards the last episode, we're like, there seems like there's a lot more still to go. And then that was kind of compacted. And they did it all right. They did it better than The Dropout, which was another limited series that I thought had a similar vibe to it. But, I would have liked it stretched out a bit more, maybe one more episode, or I feel like there was probably a lot of conversations that happened that didn't make it into this production, because from what we saw, their interactions there wasn't enough of them for him to get that kind of relationship that they built, but obviously did. It's a true story. So I think they either couldn't talk about what happened or they didn't know. But, I would have liked to have seen a bit more. That's about it. Other than that, I think it's must watch. As Jake said, is it worth your time? 100%. If you've got Apple TV, watch it. If you don't, find yourself a free trial and get into the show.
Yeah.
So let's get into some spoilers. Is there any questions or topics you really want to talk about from this series?
I guess how Larry convinced the police and always wanted to confess, and the police just did nothing, and then eventually one of the official sheriffs decided, I need to look into this.
Yeah, well, it makes you wonder, was he mentally unwell? Was he delusional, or was he a genius? Or was serially confessing to crimes that you actually did commit and then not being able to prove that you did it, is that a genius way of getting out of crimes? Because when someone else actually thought he committed another crime, all the police no, he could not, he's just an idiot, don't trust Larry didn't do that. So was he convinced people that he could not have been a murderer as a genius way of actually being the murderer? Is it like the great double bluff? I did this. No, you didn't. Stop lying. So then when you do get caught doing something, no, he's a liar. He wouldn't do that. He just likes confessing. Is he a genius? I don't know. What do you think of this whole idea about how he claimed things were a dream and sometimes he'd black out? Do you think he knew what he was doing, or that's just a tale?
Well, without actually being there, I can't really assume, but who would make up such a silly thing?
To me, I think maybe he was quite unwell, and he'd committed these crimes and they kind of all blurred together and he didn't remember what he did. But his motives, they kind of made it somewhat clear, but not fully, that, he felt a bit rejected as a kid, and the way his father treated him, that he kind of had a hatred towards women, that he felt that they wouldn't see him otherwise, and that's what he had to do. And, that's quite sad. And if that's true to what actually happened, that's he's quite a psychotic person.
Did you like the hero or the villain more in this story? Which one did you find more interesting to learn about in this show?
I think the villain was more interesting, but the hero was, you really liked Jimmy. Even when he got, found, shown as being a drug dealer in the beginning, you still thought, this guy, he's pretty cool. He's a likable guy. And that's one thing about this show. It even made the villain, at points, you're like, he's a nice guy. He's likable. They somehow made this villain likable, even though you knew he was a serial killer. You're like, he's had a tough upbringing. He's had a few things happen to him, that's why he is the way he is. But then you realise he's possibly killed 21 young females. Like, he's not a good guy. You shouldn't like this guy.
Did you feel sorry for him?
At points, like, I don't agree with what he did, but the show did actually make you feel a connection to him and go, oh, he's somewhat likable. You know, he knows his stuff about cars, and he's good at carving. He's good at all these different skills, but you know, he's a psychopath, really. What do you think? Do you like him? Did the show make you like him at some point?
I kind of question, was it more the actor doing the performance, that's why we liked him, or was it the actor, the person Larry, that's how he actually was? I don't know which one was more convincing.
Yeah, I guess the actor would have to take an inspiration from somewhere, whether they let him watch some confession tapes of the original and he probably tried to mimic him, but either way, it was a very good performance, both parts.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Do you kind of regret that the police didn't take the confessions not seriously at the time?
Yeah, well, I guess how many murders that would have prevented if, you know, when he made his first confession, did they, if they arrested him then, would have it saved more people? Then yeah, I guess so. And you wonder what was the reason for his original confessions? Is it that, you know, the ultimate double bluff, or is he, does he really not remember doing these things, or did he want some kind of fame or something? Like, I don't know. It's really odd.
What was your favourite episode or scene that made you think this was a high caliber show?
Oh, that's a tough question. Which stood out? I don't know. It's all kind of mixed for me at the moment. I just overall really liked it. I think I knew from probably halfway through the first episode that it was going to be really good, and then after that I was kind of gripped. So I don't really have a standout, but I guess that moment when they had the argument in the wood wood shop kind of thing, and that's when it kind of clicked, you know, he's got him, this is it. So that was probably the pivotal moment of the show. Yeah.
And do you kind of feel sorry for this show that is on Apple TV Plus? And if it was on Netflix or something else, it would probably be more talked about, or?
Oh, not really. You know, Apple is big. It's a big company. It's not like it's on, you know, some other streaming service that isn't utilized. It's just, I guess with Netflix, you'd reach more of a wider audience, but I don't think it's a disadvantage it's on Apple. It's just, you know, it probably will get less airtime and less talked about, but I think it might reach enough people, you know, just because of the star power that's in it. So time will tell.
And do you see these actors getting other performances in the future, or this is their high point?
Oh, no, for sure they will get more. Taron Egerton's probably signed up for quite a few more movies, and I think if Paul Walter House isn't already, I think that he will definitely get a few more roles from this.
And still in Cobra Kai?
He still is. What role he plays in Cobra Kai, I'm not sure, because the last we saw in that, he was arrested, he got out of jail, and then he put on a house party, and then the police raided it. So maybe that's the last we see of him in Cobra Kai.
Do you think this show meant more because it was a true story, and it, like I said in the verdict, it had a lot of impact, so you wanted to find out? And do you think it being a true story, it mattered more?
Well, a true story definitely gets you hooked, because you don't at any point question, you go, that's not real, that's stupid, because you go, no, it was real. So it does get you to believe what's unbelievable, because I guess if this wasn't a true story, it would have been like, there's no way he got a confession out of him that easily, and there's no way that someone could confess and the police wouldn't do anything about it. So we'd pull it apart, but the fact that it's a true story, we don't, because we go, it happened, it's facts. So it enhances it, but I still think without it being a true story, it still would have been it's still a good story.
And how did you find Larry's Vietnam, Civil War mindset about how life is, and about women? And
yeah, it's a bit disturbing that he believed that you know, that in Civil War times, you know, a woman, you know, as of 12 was having kids, and that's fine. It's like, oh, they're adults, so so that's why he felt differently about what he was doing with these girls. So it was it's quite perverted.
Well, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you like this video. Check out other videos at the end. Let the force be with you. Bye bye.